Hey, thank you all for joining us. This is the Sentinel Roundtable. Election night, you're looking at five weary journalists staring at you. Yeah, I don't think I got much sleep. Arpan and I were I'm Brian Vernellis. I'm digital director at the Sentinel. Let's go around the quick roundtable here. Sarah Leach, editor-in-chief. Hello,
Hi.
Sarah. We got Mitch Boatman. Mitch, education reporter. He was out covering some stuff. Arpan Lobo, the Batman to my Robin since last night. We've been covering Trump, Pence, you name it. Anybody comes down, we're there. Audra Gamble, managing editor. Hello, Audra looks the freshest of all of us. Everybody else just looks so haggard.
It's all just a facade of several pots of coffee, I promise.
Okay. Well, Arpan, if you want to talk, we were at the Trump event last night in Grand Rapids. It was a logistical nightmare. One way in, one way out of this venue, and 10,000 people showed up? Just
Oh, I would guess more than 10,000 people. I haven't seen an exact, police. Typically, the police give crowd numbers. I didn't see that this morning, or I guess, yeah, this morning. But I mean, despite the logistical issues with it, if you're the president, I would call last night's rally a success. It was in Grand Rapids again, the same kind of setup as 4 years ago. They have this kind of super rally, all the gangs all there, Trump, Pence, Ted Nugent. They try and wrap things up in Grand Rapids. A little different this time with the coronavirus crisis. It was outdoors. That was pretty much the only social distancing protocol. That and masks were given out at the entrance, but everybody's packed in there like sardines. But that kind of rally leading into Election Day definitely, in the president's eyes, definitely gave kind of a little confidence boost in Michigan leading into Election Day, despite polls having Joe Biden up by kind of several points at this point.
Well, yeah, that's kind of led into right now it's 10:15, and things are still early to call, but he's got quite a bit of momentum sweeping across the country right now.
He does. It's very important to note that, yes, while he does have a big early lead, there is still a ways to go. In Michigan, we're looking at if I can pull it up in front of me, we're looking at 29% reporting. That means that, almost 3/4 of the vote still has to be counted across the state. That includes areas like Wayne County, where we know Wayne County will be good for Biden and will be good for other Democrats on the ballot. But still, if I'm President Trump right now, if I'm on that team, I am kind of encouraged by the early numbers, even here locally in Ottawa County. As expected, Trump and other Republicans are doing very well. We'll see how much of the absentee ballots still have to come in and how much early voting, or I'm sorry, not early voting, regular voting has to be counted. We'll see where this goes. Jocelyn Benson, the Michigan Secretary of State, just said at a press conference that she expects every single vote to be counted in the state within the next 24 hours.
Yeah, I just want to jump in there, Arpan, with some absentee ballot numbers, because it is important to note that statistically, Democrats are much more likely to be a part of that absentee ballot number, and those are just going to be some of the later results that we see reported. And especially, logistically, you think a larger county like, say, Wayne County, Oakland County, Washtenaw County, those places that will benefit Vice President Biden more than President Trump, they're just going to come in later because there's sheerly more votes to be counted, which takes longer than a smaller, perhaps more rural county. So statewide, we're talking 3.5 million absentee ballots, and between 2 and 2.5 million people voted in person today in Michigan. So we may be approaching a record, at least in recent history, for voting in the state of Michigan. Our most notable, benchmark for that is in 2008, we had 5,039,000 votes cast in the state. So it's very possible we're going to beat that number in this election cycle, which is great. Bigger voter turnout is always wonderful to see, and people engaging in democracy. However, that means more votes to be counted and more time it's going to take. So everybody just needs to kind of hold in and be patient as those votes get counted throughout the night.
For Mitch and Arpan, what are those numbers? You guys are out and about in the community today, what are those numbers? You know, the fact that so many absentee ballots that Audra was talking about, what does that mean for the down ballot races, do you think?
Well, I think for the down ballot races, in terms of absentee ballots, Michigan does have straight ticket voting. So you do have the option of when you fill out your ballot, you can choose straight Democrat, straight Republican, and kind of just take that route. It saves a lot of the hassle of kind of going through each individual race. And we know that in some years, there are a lot of things on the ballot. In terms of the absentee impact on that, I'm not 100% sure of what that will mean for some down ballot candidates. Typically, as Audra said, early voting, absentee voting, especially in communities of greater, more urban areas, tends to benefit the Democrats. So we'll see if that continues throughout the ballot. I don't think Michigan is a state where you'll see a lot of dissent between those who are voting for President Trump and those who are voting for Republicans across the ballot. In fact, the only instance I could think of with that is the exact opposite thing. In Michigan's 6th district in the southwest part of the state, you'll probably see a lot of people, maybe not a lot, but there will be a portion of people that will vote for Joe Biden and will also vote for Republican Fred Upton to represent them in Congress. So it's one of these things that we just have to kind of wait and see as it plays out.
Yeah, I mean, locally right now, in Ottawa and Allegan counties, we're seeing pretty good results for, Michigan House of Rep and some down ticket Republicans. Right now in Ottawa County, Jim Lilly and Brad Slaw in the 89th and 90th Michigan House districts are winning pretty handily against their Democratic opponents. We also actually are tracking an Ottawa County Commissioner race in which the only Democrat on the commission, Doug Zylstra, is currently losing. There's quite a few votes to still be counted there, but he is the incumbent. And right now his challenger, Paul Lilly, is winning against him by a handful of votes. It's definitely not, a for sure thing yet, but at this moment around, 10:20 in the evening, that's one that we're watching as well that could be a possible upset.
Hey, Mitch. Oh, please join us.
Yeah, I was going to say, Arpan mentioned that straight ticket voting. I just pulled a few numbers from some of the Allegan County precincts that have come in. In Fenville, you've got 385 out of 698 votes for straight ticket. In Lake Town Township, you had 2,577 out of 4,280 were straight ticket. So that definitely plays in when you're talking about those down ballot races. And I think as of about 10:20, we've got 11 precincts out of 48 in Allegan County in, so making a little bit of progress, but like everything else, there's still a long way to go in all of these, local and national.
Hey, Mitch, or excuse me, Arpan, you were covering the Schulten-Meyer race today. Can you talk a little bit about that and what was going on in Grand Rapids today?
Yeah, this morning, Peter Meyer, and he's a Republican candidate in Michigan's 3rd congressional district, which is currently represented by Justin Amash, a libertarian who used to be a Republican, but then left the party in 2019 over kind of issues with where the party was going. Wasn't a big fan of President Trump, even voted for his impeachment. Meyer and his in-laws, who are actually immigrants, they voted this morning in Grand Rapids, and just a few hours ago, I was actually at the Kent County Democrat headquarters, where Hillary Scholten was holding a small press availability, about a 15-minute scrum, where she just kind of talked about her optimism going into the race. She mentioned that it's going to probably take a while for votes to be counted. This district traditionally is not been represented by Democrat, and I think 50 years is the number, is a time frame. But with Grand Rapids trending more democratically, and with maybe more kind of changes in the near suburbs of Kentwood and Wyoming, it's possible that this district could be open for a Democrat like Scholten to pick up. Some national outlets have rated it as a toss-up. I was coming in with the belief that Meyer had the edge, but it was definitely not an impossible job for Scholten and the Democrats to kind of flip this seat. We'll see where it is. There's still tons of votes to be coming in. The early results all point in Meyer's favor, and we'll see if that trend continues. It's likely to narrow the gap, but we'll see if he can kind of see this out.
Yeah, that's another one of those races that people are really just going to need to be patient. Kent County is taking a while to report results tonight, and that's gonna, you can't call MI3 without all of the Kent County results. So that's gonna be one that we continue to watch as the night goes on.
Let's bring in editor Sarah Leach. I noticed she's got one eye on the television. Either that one eye on the television or one on the kids. I'm not quite sure.
It's the television.
I guess we're the two veterans, I guess, of the newsroom here. Boy, does that make me feel old. In this election cycle, what's been impressed upon you the most, do you think?
I think my takeaway, like watching the results coming in tonight, is the more things change, the more they stay the same. This is very similar to just about every other election night that I've covered in recent memory.
You mean like just 4 years ago? Because there were a couple nights that, let me remember, Obama McCain was pretty clear early, wasn't it, that he was going to win?
Yeah, I think that in 2008 was the exception, but other than that election, and if we're talking presidential election cycles, I think that just about every other election cycle was pretty close to what this was, where, especially when you're looking at Michigan, everyone kind of, they look at the polls for months and months and months, and then they kind of sort of accept some sort of an inevitability about polls. I think we learned a lot from 2016 about trusting polls to dictate an outcome. Although, there is some argument to be said that the polls weren't technically wrong. But when we're looking at this now, it's the same pattern. You see the early voting coming in. You see the high urban populations taking an immense amount of time.
Yeah.
The three counties that always come last are Macomb, Wayne, and Oakland for Michigan. You're going to see Kent following that trend too, because it's the largest population density outside of the big three on the east side of the state. And so you tend to see a big Democratic upswell when those counties get counted. So I think that we just have to kind of play the long game. People tend to look at these projections after 4% reporting, 12% reporting, sometimes even when you get up to 70% reporting. But you have to look at what's not counted yet, because that could make a world of difference. Remember, Trump only won the state by a little over 10,000 votes in 2016.
And I do have to give props to you, because we were talking about this the other day. Last year, who was your pick again for Democratic candidate?
I said that Biden was going to be the Democratic nominee, and nobody believed me.
Nope. Nobody in the newsroom did. I picked.
I did make a prediction about tonight, but I'm a human just like everybody else, and so I have knee-jerk reactions to the numbers. But I have to tell myself to play the long game. I personally think that Biden is going to squeak out a win, but it's anybody's game, really. Depends on a lot of factors.
Do we want to go around the room here? Where do you guys see this settling out finally?
I'd rather not stake myself to a claim. I'm just saying, You
don't see the guys on Fox Sports sitting back saying,
well, I mean, like Joel there's a significant difference, I think, between,
Terry Bradshaw doesn't say, I can't pick between the Steelers and Eagles today.
Okay, but yeah, I mean, the Steelers and Eagles and the next president of the United States, it's two totally different propositions.
Well, and it's also different to predict, like to say who you want to win versus who you think is going to win. I personally think that when you get into some of the demographics of the things that have been counted and the things that are going to be counted, I think that Biden's going to win by a much smaller margin than what the polls predicted, but that's just a guess.
Yeah, just a reminder, the last polling average from 538 had Biden up in the state of Michigan by 7.9 points. And that large of a margin doesn't look super likely at this exact moment in the election night for the state of Michigan.
interestingly enough, the Real Clear Politics average, which uses fewer polls, had it as about a 5-point margin. So I think, you know, when Sarah, when you, Audra, and I spoke about this last week, we kind of all had different ranges of where we thought this race could go. At the time, I viewed it as kind of a narrow Biden win, smaller than the Obama wins in 2008 and 2012. I tend to still hold that purview, but still, it's much too early to say anything, you know, definitively. And, you know, anybody doing that is probably, at least in the state of Michigan, a little misguided.
Any final thoughts from anyone before we sign off?
We're just asking, you know, voters to be patient as we sort through all the results. Almost all of us are posting updates to our various Twitter accounts. The Holland Sentinel one, you can find us all being retweeted there. And we've also got live updates on our website throughout the night. So keep checking in with us as things come rolling in.
I think that'll just about do it. Thank you, Mitch, for that vote of confidence. On behalf of the Sentinel staff, I'm Brian Brunellis. We want to thank you all for watching, and tune in next time. We'll see you in 4 years, I guess.